and welcome to another evening of engaging conversation here on Hard Copy. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Well, I guess it's still in order to say Barka de Salah to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. We hope you had a beautiful celebration and had electricity to celebrate with while the holiday lasted. Well, I wasn't so fortunate, but that may be because the president left Abuja and relocated to Daura, where his kinsmen told him that they only have electricity when he's around. So I'm wondering, did they take my electricity to Daura? Well, the president should be back soon to Abuja, and I'm sure my power will be restored as well. But speaking more seriously, how have we fared in this all-critical sector? And what agenda should we be setting for the minister who will be saddled with ensuring that Nigeria gets stable power supply? That's the question we're posing and answering tonight on the program. Our guest is the national chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Power Engineers, Israel Abraham. Engineer Israel Abraham, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the power sector in Nigeria has been largely unbundled and has been privatized since 2013. Now, the Ministry of Power, which is also the with Works and Housing, is now left with providing policy direction and saying to the management of the transmission company of Nigeria. But there are Nigerians who think that we need to revisit the privatization process. They blame the manner in which it was carried out as one of the reasons we've not made much progress. Where do you stand on this?
Well, my stand, and indeed the stance of engineering power professionals, is that government is still responsible for whatever problems there is today.
You are discounting the privatization process?
No, we are not discounting that. We are only saying that it was not well done, but if government have stood its ground, it could have gone through and become and work. Every process or any endeavors that you embark upon, you have to see it through.
By standing its ground. Now, I remember more than once, I spoke with the former Minister of Power, Works and Housing, and I'm sure that you have also raised issues with governments and the kind of people that they appoint to certain positions. Yeah. However, he did say that one of the problems with the privatization process was that expectations were not managed, that we thought that privatization was going to be a silver bullet in which after we privatized, our problems were going to be solved. And that, because expectations were not managed, people were hoping that, magic will happen overnight. But that was not going to happen, and there was still a lot of work to be done. Do you share his view?
Well, I share his view to an extent, no doubt about that. That's actually true. Expectations were high that when you privatize, these things will work. But the expectations of it was that at the end of the privatization, it also have been done with certain things which were not done. For instance, when you sell entities, and you say they are privatized, you expect them to actually be private entities, but that is not so at the moment. They are privatized entities, but they are actually not privatized in the sense that government still holds a larger share of it. And
not a larger share.
Okay, I know what I mean.
Government owns some stocks in it,
yes.
But certainly not a larger share.
About 40% is large enough to control something. And it was when government is a member of each of those boards. So it's like trying to regulate yourself. So whenever government trying to say anything, those companies come back and say, look, you cannot tell us this because you are part of our problem. You are part of us.
Is that really the situation?
Yes. That is the reality of it. Because each time you try to make any information, any insistence on a particular thing, these companies can come out boldly without fear or favor to say, look, government is part of us. They appoint their surrogates or their representatives as part of our board. So whatever we are doing, they are part of it. Whatever we do wrong or do right, they are part of it.
There are those who take issue with engineers.
Yeah.
I know that your body, the Nigerian Institution of Power Engineers, is a subsect of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Yeah. And there are people, I think only recently, the Nigerian Society of Engineers had calls to talk about the problems with engineering locally, so to speak. They've come out to express embarrassment about some projects that have failed in recent times, even issues around flooding and things of the sort. There are those who think that part of the problems which we face are with engineers themselves, because how can we have a vibrant body of engineers? We have been churning out engineers since we had our university system, and still with all of these people in the country, we produce very little. We come up with very little innovations, and they're still a part of the problem. After all, we have engineers in this power industries. We have engineers in the power sector. What are they doing?
Yeah, well, I don't want to assume, I want to assume that, well, you may not have all the background information, and that's why you may have picked that position. But the reality of it is, the professionals are not even being allowed to carry out their job. And I can tell you that tentatively, because I'm at least part of that industry, and I'm still a part. So, I told you earlier that the real problem is the government. A government that has a mind to say, look, this is my problem, I want to solve it. You put everything into that thing to get it sorted out. The government have not shown that, not this one, not the last one, not the one before. I mean, for 4 years, you have a minister who has to learn what to do. And it doesn't just stop with the minister, it goes down to both PAMSEC, directors, and so on, and even the MDAs. You put people who ordinarily may not even know what it is they want to manage. When you see a problem, the first thing to do is that, what do I do with this thing? And you look for the best hands to put there. You don't just bring someone and say, look, this is my friend, or this is my colleague, or I know that person from one. Of course, politics is part of everything. But you play politics to develop. That is what politics is about. Politics is about development. So if you're going to play politics that's going to bring about this development or, retrogression, you have to reverse it, because at the end of the day, the buck stops at your table as the president or as the governor or whatever it is. Today, what government does do is goes to China, pick what they say, I like this thing, please bring it here. And then you bring it without even consulting those on ground to say, how will this thing work with what I have? So you as the professional in the industry, you come there, they bring something for you. And you are like, you are not part of the whole process. And you are expected to do that or manage it because, of course, patriotism comes to play. You want to be patriotic, you want to see the best you can do, you want to make it work irrespective of what has been brought to you. Just of recent, the government signed an agreement with Siemens.
With Siemens, yes.
Yes. Now, you look at that kind of agreement. The president was standing with the president of Germany, Merkel, who was standing with Buhari for the power sector. Is there a power engineer who is an expert on that standing? No. The reason is very simple. The government does not know what it wants.
What you seem to be advocating, and I think you have made this point very, very clear. You talked about, appointing engineers to engineering-related ministries, departments, and agencies. You have kicked against the non-appointment of engineers by successive governments to head the relevant MDAs. This is correct, isn't that right?
True.
But some people will say you cannot appoint engineers in every single, yes, indeed, Ministry of Power is the technical ministry, but you cannot fill the entire place with engineers. There must be people who, there are some things that are common sense. There are some things that are legal, so to speak. There are some things that are, and you need a mixed array of this body of knowledge. You cannot be an expert in everything to know what to do. And there are some things that are just simple management skills. Yeah. So what exactly is the basis upon which this, your agitation is premised upon? Okay,
I've just told you how the Siemens come into such big amount contract that goes through the entire value chain, transmission, distribution, generation, and everything. Just Siemens. How did it come about? Who is the engineer or the power professional who was there to also arrange on behalf of Nigeria to make it happen? When they come in, what will they do? They will deliver what they have without the Nigerian involvement. What was the design? Everything you do has to be designed. Even you as a woman, you are designed by God. So where is the factor of the Nigerian person who is there to say, look, this thing that is coming will fit into our system? German is not Nigerian. That's the reality. The condition there, the weather, everything.
But wouldn't they take that into cognizance?
That's the problem.
They are not strangers to the Nigerian
They are strangers because...
They have been a part of the NIPPs before now. We do know that they have been involved in building turbines and things of the sort. For some of the independent power projects that we have, some of their turbines are working there. Wouldn't they take into cognizance some of the challenges that they too have faced in trying to install some of those things and put into cognizance the fact that this is we're in the tropics, so to speak, and things like the weather and other, could affect whatever it is that they're doing?
Well, that look more like it. But the question now is that it's not a matter whether they know or they know. Siemens have been part of our, for instance, in the transmission and most part of the distribution network. The SCADA system, that is supervisory control, something of the transmission company and all, most part of the power system, was handled by Siemens. And up to this moment, that is not working. Does it mean they don't know about what to do? They know what to do, but a lot of things are involved. Good. So that is more reason why, for you to begin anything, the first thing is to see why have this thing not worked earlier. You bring in those who are involved, get them to part of you, so that in everything there's a concept. You have to have a concept. The concept must come from the owners, or at least work along with the owners to know what it is. And then before you develop it, you go into the design and so on and so forth. As it stands, you are bringing something like a turnkey project and dumping on us. So we don't want a dumping ground. That's what I'm saying.
But
So,
aren't the principles of engineering around the world universal? We didn't invent engineering, did we?
agreed. But the reality is that every engineering has the locality of where you want to place it.
We have engineers. I mean, they are. You said that the government is not letting them work. I mean, I think that was one of the submissions you made earlier.
I'm right about that.
But you know, we now have. I mean, because the sector has been unbundled, we have been told that the person that consumers and customers be dealing with even more, you know, regularly with is the regulator. And if you look at the board of the regulator, that's the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, they are populated primarily by, and I took the pains to look at the CVs, the backgrounds of each of those people, and they were primarily engineers. I think you only have about 2 or 3 people who are not engineers. But if you look, they're primarily engineers. Aren't we putting engineers where we actually need to put them?
Well, I don't want to agree with you totally on that. NEC has about 7 or 8 commissioners to deal about. 2 or 3 of, I mean, about 3 of them are engineers. The remaining 4 or so are not. So it's basically.
I think it's more on the side of 4. So, for instance, I know that the chairman is an engineer. I know that the person in charge of I know Professor Frank.
Okonkwo.
I think it's
Okafor.
Exactly. Professor Frank Okafor is an engineer, and I think about 2 other people are engineers as well. Even somebody has a research, something along those lines, along engineering, even though he's not primarily an engineer, but he has been able to do some research around things of the sort. Can you really say that this body of experts is not they're not suitable enough to know the issues
let me
in the
go
sector?
back straight on it. Thanks for that. Let me go back straight to it. I told you the government was still responsible, and you cannot regulate yourself. NEC trying to regulate. Let's assume NEC now, even with the engineers it has and whatever deficiency or good it may have at the moment, is going to regulate an industry where the government is a major player. Now, if once it tries to say or do anything, the first thing that comes to it is that if I talk to this person, what will happen? The government is part of him. So I need to go back to government to say, what do I do about this person? So you are continually going back instead of implementing and enforcing your laws. You have
by a major player, you mean?
All the different companies are major players. They are participating in the market. And like I said, the government has shares in them.
The government has shares in almost all oil majors in this country.
Yeah.
But somehow, they are still being regulated.
I still believe in what I'm saying. Because, for instance, if the companies are actually giving, the government can make this very easy. Sell your shares to the Nigerian public. Enforce your laws. Deal with any company erring. As it stands, you cannot do that. Why do I mean? I don't want to ask a question here because you're supposed to be the one asking me a question. Why do you think it has been difficult to even sanction any of the companies? Why do you think it's so? Something is wrong somewhere.
You're sanctioning them to what effect?
That is, you believe that maybe the companies have not delivered on their milestones or what they have in the beginning and all the rest. Why was it difficult for government to sanction any of them? There are something that are missing or something that is wrong. And that's why the NEC, as we call it, cannot do some of these things because it's not there to do it. BP is standing on one side, believing it's only shares on behalf of government, and it appoints its own staff to be members of board, who, and you know what it means to be a member of board. So those guys will report back to BP what? What will they report? What will they report to BP when they are members of board?
Okay, well, let's take a break at this moment now. When we come back, we will take into cognizance, you know, other roads, other issues. For instance, electricity theft. What new innovations can we come up with to try and stop things that maybe engineers can actually have a say in? In just a moment, please stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Our guest tonight is Engineer Israel Abraham. He's the National Chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Power Engineers. And we're talking about the power sector and setting an agenda for the incoming minister. So, primarily, when this minister is appointed, whether he's an engineer or not, what would you be saying he or she should focus on as the first thing to tackle in the Ministry of Power?
Well, I will go back to the basics. Tell the government to hand off completely and remain government as policy and let the companies be fully privatized. Sell the shares to the Nigerian people. Let them take charge as owners of these companies or entities. Then let us drive the system. The system will run itself. There's no system that cannot run itself if it's allowed to run. It will grow over its mistakes or shortcomings. But as it stands, the power industry can never do that if the government remains hamstrung or get this company to be hamstrung to it as it stands today. Because the same thing applies to NEC. NEC cannot function effectively because it's also tied in the sense that it has to look at government side. As what will government do? What do they want us to do? And so on. Instead of taking decisions. Some decisions cannot be taken outrightly because you are looking at what is the backlash.
Can you give an example of such a decision?
All right. For instance, the distribution company, just take any of the distribution companies, is supposed to maybe is given mandate of, let's say they are given mandate to machine orders to install meters, for instance, now just as we are trying to say, to consumers. And maybe that doesn't happen. The government will still go back again and give another one. Just recently, or before now, the idea was meters will be sold. I mean, the companies will bring meters to the people and then install, and then they will use the meters and pay either whatever. But it was reversed. Today, the people are being made to pay for the meters under a MAP program. The question you ask yourself is that, who owns the meter? Is it the consumer who is buying the meter or the company who owns the meter?
Is that the current policy? Because I do know that indeed that there was a policy that where consumers were allowed to buy the meters and then the monies was deducted subsequently from how much they were paying as a power tariff charge, so to speak. But it would seem that that plan has now been scrapped, and now mandate has now been given to the discos to meter their customers. Now, that was one of the issues that the Minister of Power, the former Minister of Power, Works and Housing, raised. He said that we didn't even have a database of how many consumers we had in the country. Yeah. So the issues that we have, I mean, it goes back to the issue of, you know, that silver bullet, so to speak, thinking that privatization will solve all issues, when indeed we had not even done the preliminary work which we needed to do in the power sector.
Yes, I think that's what I told you, that actually most of the problems hang on government.
Some people will say that associations like yours cannot be found complaining. You people have a platform. You also have a vibrant body, not just the Institution of Power Engineers now, but also the Society of Engineers. Yeah. What are you doing to remedy some of the things that you have noticed? I mean, one would have thought that, for instance, you'd have been involved in the power sector plan, or you're involved in the energy drive of the federal government. What exactly is or are institutions like yours doing to get involved in the development of the country? Yeah,
we are very much involved in almost all aspects of what you just mentioned. All the plans, and there's no plan that will be done without the Nigerian engineers being involved. The question is, after making all the submissions, you pick all those documents and give to somebody else to drive it who may not have all it takes to drive it. It still goes back to knowing that you have a problem and you want to solve it, and you need the best person to solve it. And the only person who can solve your problem is the right man who knows what to do. That is the reality of it. Yeah, but
some people will argue that the minister is not going to wear a hard hat and go and be fixing things. Good. That's not what he's going to do.
I will explain to you now.
Yes, but that's
where we are wrong. That's where we are wrong, because if I appoint you, for instance, become Minister of Power, what will you do? You will go and learn. You will get the technical assistant here and there. Will they tell you if it's lie? Do you know whether it's lie or true? You know not. You just understand that you can trust that man because he's your friend or he's your brother or you know him somewhere. But if you are a power technocrat, whoever is your technical assistant is only going to work to give you the best of what you already understand or have a basic knowledge of. and you are going to be working with that man to fine-tune what you have to make it work.
But
Not learning and waiting for someone to tell you what you may not know, and then you say, please, can you explain this again? You don't need all that kind of explain again because you know already a basic. You have a basic knowledge. So you need that basic knowledge to start up anything. That's why you need experts on every areas of life.
With due respect, so some people would say that we have seen experts in this sector before. I mean, there was once that the former Minister of Power was Professor Bath Naji, whom people spoke very highly of, who was very knowledgeable in the power sector, but he wasn't able to solve the problem, was he?
Well, I don't want to agree with that. We need to bring everything side by side to see what he does or what he didn't do, and then compare it with what others have done. That's the only way you can measure up. And don't forget, sometimes you can rate somebody from an angle based on the fact that you may not have seen supply around your house or your environment or vicinity. That does not mean the person has not put in what it needs to do to generate it after that, because power is not a touch and battery situation. So a lot of things goes into the production of power, transmission and distribution, and even management of all these things. It takes a lot, and that's why I also insist that everything must start from the conception. You must get those people involved. It must be a rolling plan. A rolling plan means that it's something that is already there. You are planning for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Anybody that comes in, continue with it. Not something you want to just come say, okay, I need 10 megawatt, I need 20 megawatt. It's not something like that. It's something that you must plan on a consistent basis.
Aren't we saying that? I mean, we just heard the federal government saying that they're looking at getting a certain number of megawatts by a certain year. Yeah. Aren't we saying that? That plan to produce, I think their plan is incremental power with every year, and they keep setting targets for themselves. With this new deal with Siemens, I think the plan is to add about 10,000 megawatts by, I think, in 1 year or 2 years, thereabout. That is the plan that they have, which some people even say is conservative. Aren't you seeing such a plan?
Well, okay. I won't want to argue on it.
I'm just asking. I mean, if you're following the stories in the past sector.
Those plans are just plans by, I don't want to call it armchair postulates. They can write anything. But the reality of it is that since 1999 to date, how much have we been able to get?
So you're not optimistic with this deal that the federal government has signed with Siemens?
I am not optimistic because I know it's a turnkey kind of rate. You are just bringing something to dump on us. I'm not optimistic. I will only be optimistic when I realize clearly that yes, you have the people involved. If the people are not involved, then what are you doing it for? Okay,
what about innovations? Innovations that can be made to solve certain problems in the power sector, for instance, electricity theft. Is your society thinking along solutions in that line?
Of course, we've just had our conference about a month ago. All those ideas were excavated in what we came up with, and we are always sending any of our submissions to the Minister, PAMSEC, and some of these companies so that they can use it, because we realize at the end of the day, this is our own destiny. It's our life. We have no other things to do than what we have been trained to do. We are the one that's trained to do it. Do you know what it means to train an army and then keep the army in your compound? They will become a problem to you. That's what the Nigerian power technocrats have been made to do. After being trained, after being done everything, you keep them and you bring somebody to come and say, take charge of them. Then the people will be looking at it. Okay, so why did we went and train? Why did we become experts on these things? Why are we experts only to be subservient to some other person? I want to just say one thing. Some certain things you look at it as emotions or sentiment. But the reality of it is that nobody, no matter who you are, is happy to be under somebody who he knows have no value to what he's doing, who is only there maybe for the gain of it.
Well, Engineer Israel Abraham, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's the program tonight, but we will not go without acknowledging the mails and tweets we received from you. Ms. Habda Gogot, you pointed out on Twitter that the Deputy Governor of Kaduna State, Hadiza Balarabe, is not the first female Deputy Governor in the northern region, as I said in the last edition of Hard Copy. Pauline Tallinn, a current ministerial nominee, is. Well, that is very true. Thank you for your observation. Mrs. Balarabe, however, is currently the only female deputy governor in the whole of the northern region. I think that's what I meant to say. Well, thank you for your observation. And Daramola Caleb from Ketu, you say, my family and I had a nice time watching your interview with Mr. Bala Yusuf last week on Hard Copy. I quite agree with Mr. Bala on the heartfelt issues he raised, particularly on local government administration in Nigeria. If we must succeed in the delivery of good governance to the people, we must encourage, equip, and empower our local governments to nip teeth in problems from developing into hydra-headed monsters in future to come. Nice job, Maupe. Well, thank you, Caleb. If you want to be a part of the conversation, our handles are on your screen. Many thanks for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.